With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our third main topic today. Chris, what is our third main topic today?
This is from Mitchell Caulfield. Hey, John and crew. Love the show. I saw something that says the MCU writers of Endgame and Avengers would like to fix and take a shot at making a Superman movie. As a huge Superman fan and lover of Henry Cavill's portrayal of the Man of Steel and all the like, and all the movies of DC has been in so far, do you think that Superman needs to be fixed? What do you think, crew? Thank you. Well, you're a big Superman fan. How do you feel about somebody redoing Superman?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm always open to new iterations of any movie. Like, hey, reboot Star Wars. I'm fine with that. If it's good, great. If it sucks, I got the original still. Yay, I win. So, I mean, it's all good. So, I love the Henry Cavill Superman. And I'm a little bit torn because on one side, guys involved with the Avengers and Endgame writers saying that they'd like to take a crack at Superman. That's kind of exciting. But I'm also going to admit I'm not excited by what they said. Now, let's go back. Here's what they actually said in talking about this. So here's what this is all based on. Stephen McFeely said this. I mean, I think Captain America shows there are certainly ways to do a really good Superman movie in this day. You don't have to dirty him up. You don't have to get rid of his earnestness. The Christopher Reeve Superman is one of my favorite movies. So that's one we certainly borrow from all the time. So this has been caught on, and understandably so. You know, writers of Avengers and Endgame come out and start writing stuff like that. A bunch of people get excited. I take issue, though, with a couple of the things that he said. Now, granted, keep in mind when you're hearing my comments here that I am a big fan of Man of Steel. And I am a big fan of the Henry Cavill Superman. So you want to take what I say with a grain of salt because I have a pre-existing love for that character and what they've done with him. But I do take a couple of issues with him. This whole notion that you need to fix what this Superman is. First of all, Captain America? I'm sorry. Like, Captain America is my favorite character in the MCU, but really because they've treated him not like the Christopher Reeve Superman, they've treated him like the Henry Cavill Superman. I'm not saying they stole from that. I'm just saying, if you were to say, which of the two Supermen is the Chris Evans Captain America more like? He is much more like the Henry Cavill Superman than he is about the Christopher Reeve. What do we see out of Captain America in the MCU? He eventually becoming very jaded, very skeptical, untrusting of the system and of the governments he works for. He becomes disillusioned, particularly when we see in Winter Soldier. It's like, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. Like, I want to do the right thing. I'm guided by this moral compass and principle, but I always thought being guided by this moral compass and principle meant being connected in with this system, and I don't think I trust people anymore. I don't think I trust the system anymore, blah, blah, blah. And he eventually becomes a little bit more dirtied up. Not because he wants to roll around in the mud, but because he's living in a scenario now that is just throwing dirt on him. And it's you can't help but with that. Carrying that over into Superman himself, if you want the, gosh, golly, ma'am, I'll get your cat out of the tree and then enjoy some of your delicious apple pie, ding, as his teeth glow and shimmer. If you want that Superman, that's fine. But you can only do that Superman if you put him in a world that is conducive to that. You know, you can have Christopher Reeve Superman if your Lex Luthor is Gene Hackman going, yeah, I'm going to take over land property. Yes, come with me now. What's the name of his little sidekick again?
Otis.
Otis. Come, Otis. You know, if you want to make that kind of a world, fine. In that kind of a world, you can have that kind of Superman. What I loved about Man of Steel personally, Rob, was the notion that, you know, here we had Kal-El, who had that same sense of right and wrong that the traditional Superman has. He has that same innocence about him. He has that same desire and drive to do good and protect the innocent. The difference is the world that he lives in. And he's a character that has become conflicted by what he's seen. I love in Man of Steel the way they build up showing his childhood and where that's. And he's trying to figure out, how does he do all of this? And then he discovers he's alien. And then he finds at least a hologram of his actual biological father and all this kind of stuff. I believe that Henry Cavill's Superman was the Superman previous iterations would have been if they lived in this Superman's world. The other Supermen can live the way they are in the worlds that you created for them. This one was a little different. And I don't think Superman needs to be fixed. I'm not saying You can't recast Superman or reboot him and do him a little bit differently and it not be amazing. Of course you can. But I take a little bit of an issue with suggesting that you don't have to dirty him up. They didn't dirty him up. They just put him in a more grounded world, and this is how we responded to it. And then using Captain America as an example is actually a bad example because that Captain America is more like Henry Cavill Superman than he was about Christopher Reeve Superman. That's my thoughts on it. End of the day, I'd still be down for them writing a Superman movie either way. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing about all this. What's your response to it?
Well, like you, I loved Man of Steel. And I think everything that you said is pretty dead on. When I listen to people, fanboys, whatever, I've been reading Superman comics my whole life. I've seen every Superman movie, and I thought their portrayal of Superman was a Superman for today. I mean, even the 78 Christopher Reeve Superman, as much as I do, and I adore that movie, it's a movie that's out of time. It's not even really set in 1978 New York City, even though it kind of is. I mean, it begins with an image from 1938 of the Daily Planet, and it's set in time that's it's classical and it's Americana. The whole first half an hour of that movie is so mythic, and Norman Rockwell, it's just amazing. Now, the people that object to Man of Steel, I've never really understood. I've looked at it more as a gritty first contact story, and Superman doesn't know who he is, and this idea that at the end he's dealing with an extinction level event. And people are like, well, Superman should never kill. I'm like, really? Well, it's not like you can lock those Kryptonians up in jail. It was kill or be killed. It was either the world is going to end and the Kryptonians are going to win, or Superman has to step up and make a tough choice, which he did. And I loved it.
And he struggled with the choice.
Of course
he hated
did.
the choice.
I mean, and these people are like, Superman doesn't kill. I'm like, what world do you live in? Like, what? There's a certain level of fandom, and I've been a part of it my entire life, that is sort of, they don't think things through on a certain level. They want things to be in this nice little box. And while superhero movies are growing and evolving and look at Logan. You know, Superman, Man of Steel was a movie that was more mature and asked a lot of tougher questions than, say, your 78 Superman did. It was very cut and dried in that movie. But when you have people coming down, the Kryptonian Zod and his mini army are going to come to Earth and decide to eliminate everybody, what do you do about that threat? It's not like it's not half-assed. You either handle it or you don't. And I see all this criticism level at Man of Steel. I loved every minute of it. I love Cavill's portrayal of it. I think that we need to carry forward that vision of Superman.
I wish.
Because otherwise it doesn't work. You're never going to make a Superman movie work if you try and set it with a 1938 sensibility. You never will.
I love that you brought up the whole killing thing too. Another bad way to try to compare him to Captain America. Do you know what Captain America's body count is in the MCU? He killed a lot of people. And not just huge superpowered gods. I'm talking about regular Joe soldiers and whatever. He's killed a lot of people. And we never talk about that. So don't talk to me about, oh, you can't dirty him up. Come on, you've dirtied him up a lot already. Anyway, what do you guys think about these comments about the guys from the MCU saying they'd love to write a Superman movie, which I gotta admit does excite me, but I personally take some umbrage with the way they're describing it. But maybe you think they're 100% on the money. That's valid too. Jump down into the comments section below and let me know what you guys think about that. All right.